is day 11 of the Ikdane Burnout series. Ikdane stands for I can do anything, not everything. The idea that individually tasks don't necessarily overwhelm us, but often when we're tasked with too many things, or whether there's emotional blocks or trauma or other things that are going on in our mind and bodies that are creating blocks for us to be able to do those, then we can't do everything. So this is day 11. If you've missed any of the ones before, you can go back to my page and see what the sessions have been. But today, the title is 5 Steps to Overcoming the Negative Self-Talk to Beat Burnout. And this one is really going to be looking at how to use self-compassion. The idea is through steps. So when you're in a day-to-day life, anything can happen, anything can be thrown at you. But the idea is, how do you stop that thought? So just like a little bit of a background, if you haven't read it before, there's a book called Kybalion. And it, for me, is one of the early writings around some of this mental health and wellness and well-being and mindset conversation that we have going on at the moment. And there's 7 principles, but the second principle is about the principle of a correspondence. And it basically says, as above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. And the idea about this principle is it looks at, it says that the law and phenomena of the various planes of life and of being have to correspond, right? There's equal and opposites. And so when we feel weighed down by, an example I give you is that when we have thinking about what people might be thinking about us without them saying that, we are effectively projecting what within without through them, right? They become the embodiment of what our fears are, because often we don't know what they're thinking. They might not be thinking about us at all. Like, we're very selfish creatures. And there's a thing where we have to realize at one point that a lot of it is based on evidence. Like, so if they actually act, I don't like you, then we have evidence to suggest that, right? But if we don't, then it's actually just an assumption, and we're projecting our own fears based on patterns we've seen, experiences we've had, sometimes even personal trauma. And that add to it, because over the course of a day, research suggests we have like about 1,000 thoughts a day, right? 75% of those negative, 95% of those are repetitive, which means that every day we have the same 75% negative thoughts. And which means overall, coupled with confirmation bias, what that means is that our minds look for evidence to support what we're already thinking. If we're already thinking 70% of 60,000 thoughts negative, and our minds are going to be looking for evidence to support this, then it becomes a vicious cycle that can damage our self-image, which we've spoken about before in a previous episode, can be a foundation of what leads us towards burnout. Because if we have a negative self-image, then then we can look for reasons that actually add to this pressure, negative pressure that we have in our lives, which means that when it gets to the point where we have a task to do, we can think, what's the point? We can never do this anyway, or our work means nothing. It's because of those thoughts that we have in our head, which is really the reason why we need to look at our negative self-talk as a matter of easy, right? So, for example, if you find your colleagues at work, right, you think they don't like you, it's actually your mind ignoring the signs that they might like you and amplifying the ones that they don't, to meet that confirmation bias. Because what ends up happening otherwise, and I'm using big words, but I'll explain what in a minute, but what ends up happening is, if your mind doesn't do that, if it doesn't find evidence to support what it's already thinking, then it creates what we call dissonance. So it's a misalignment in the body, and that's to the stress in our bodies. And so it's literally trying to find things to put ourselves at ease. And unfortunately, if those thoughts and feelings don't help us, they don't serve us, then it's still going to continue to find that thing. It's sometimes as easy as saying, I am useless. So your mind is going to find reasons for you to be useless, right? Versus I can do anything. So it will find evidence that you can do anything. I'll give you a really quick example, right? And no matter where you are, no matter who you are, this is something you can try doing right now. I asked you, um, why can't you achieve your goals? Find 3 reasons why you can't achieve your goals, right? Your mind is probably gonna find reasons, right? It might be because of my age, it might be because of my gender, it might be because of my race, it might be because of my abilities, it might be because of something that happened recently past, or something someone said, or the way I was brought up. It might come up with all kinds of reasons why you can't achieve what your dream is, right? Or why you're not worth your dream, for example, or why dreams aren't for people you, right? Any way you construct that sentence, you can find, right? And it'll probably be quite simple, quite easy. Now let's flip it. If I said to you, give me 3 reasons why you will achieve your dreams, give that a go. And this is for you as well on Instagram. Give it a go. And what I sometimes realize with clients is that it's harder to find the reasons for it than it is to find the reasons against it. And that's just evidence that we are naturally often thinking so negatively. Negativity comes easily, right? Sometimes we have to train our minds to be positive, to look for the solutions instead of the problems. And it doesn't mean that the problems aren't there. It just means that we're giving light to the solutions that were also there all along, right? So today is about 5 steps to overcoming negative self-talk to beat burnout. And it's really a conversation about self-compassion. Right? So the 5 steps of this. Number 1 is awareness. Until I laid all that out for you, you may not have realized how much negative self-talk happens. And it can start the moment you wake up, right? So you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got this day ahead again. Oh my gosh, this person's going to be at work. Oh my gosh, I've got this thing to do. Oh my gosh, my partner has this expectation of me. Oh my gosh, my children need to be fed, and I'm not worried. I'm worried about where the rent is going to from, all these things. But then also, those are external, right? But there's also the external ones. Am I good enough? Oh my gosh, is that person going to find me attractive? Oh my gosh, am I even worthy to this room? Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, I can't even remember the word, but when you believe they're not meant to be where you are, right? You don't deserve to be where you are, right? All these doubts, fears, expectations that you've had of life are going to pile on to you the moment you wake up, go through your day, and you think to yourself, if I'm going to tap my card, is there going to be enough in there? When I speak to this person at work, are they going to start a fight because I'm going to ask them this question? This person is treating me really badly, but I can't pull them up on it because then there's going to be some kind of imposter syndrome. Thank you so much. It was right, imposter syndrome, right? But is this person going to flip out if I challenge them, even though I know that they're treating me badly, but I don't, do I have the evidence to support what I'm actually going to say to them? If my boss is going to be shouting at me today, can I stand up and say, don't speak to me like that? Like, what is my image of myself? How much evidence do I have to support that so that I can challenge everything, right? So being aware of these negative thoughts that happen in your mind, acknowledging when they happen. Like, this can look like self-criticism, like I said, self-doubt, but it also harsh judgments. And judgment, is this good or bad? Am I good or bad? And what you realize is, if we look objectively at things, and I had this conversation with someone yesterday, is there's levels of knowing, right? There's the facts side of things, the objective truth, as you will. This is what happened, right? And it's very basic. I hit my hand on the table. Cool. That is what happened. But then there's a story that we build around it, right? I have a I abuse tables. I'm a table abuser. Right? That becomes a negative self-thought. That becomes part of my identity that I carry around. Whenever tables are around, I'm going to try and avoid them because I feel like there's a part of me which is going to reflect this idea that I'm a table abuser, right? I know it's a ridiculous concept, but if you think about it in real life, it happens to us all the time. Being aware of the judgments we cast on ourselves. I did, even if I'm completely broken, I'm struggling financially, I feel bad of myself. And so I'm going to judge myself as a bad person because I didn't do that thing. And it's also attached to the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is I may have made a mistake or done something wrong, or shame is I am a mistake or I am wrong, right? There's a